there, and welcome to another video. So I am going to be continuing my top 5 series in this one, and in this one I'm going to be covering my top 5 hairsprays for curly and wavy hair. However, before we get into my top 5, I am going to be covering the uses of hairspray on curly and wavy hair, along with explaining the differences between the different types of hairspray, so aerosol versus non-aerosol, the differences between finishing sprays, setting sprays, and working sprays. I will explain all of those. If there is one section you want to see more than the other, or you just want to jump to the top 5, I am going to put timestamps down below so that you are able to jump to whichever you want to see. For those of you who are new here, my name is Michelle. I'm a licensed hairstylist with over 20 years of experience, and on this channel I use those 20 years of experience to help you have healthy, happy hair. So we're gonna start with the different uses of hairsprays. Now, one might think that it's pretty obvious that you just use hairspray to put everything in place when your hair is dry and it's done and it's styled and you just lock it all in. And yes, that is most definitely a use of hairspray on any type of hair, curly, wavy, straight, whatever. However, there are other uses for hairsprays that work really well for curly hair to help lock down the frizz, keep out the humidity, and to help with longer lasting hold between wash dates. So one of the ways that I have talked about on this channel a couple of times is to use hairspray on your wet hair just after applying the rest of your products and doing your styling, but before you go into diffusing your hair. This will help to kind of set your hair. It will help with hold and longevity overall, and it will help to keep the frizz down throughout the drying process. I do have a video where I demonstrated that technique up here. It's a pretty fun video. It's actually my routine from 1993, so go ahead and check that one out if you haven't already, and you might have a good laugh over the stuff that I do. I know I had a good laugh over myself while making the video. So another way that I've recommended using hairspray is in the middle of the diffusing process to help create some lighter, bouncier, and tighter curls. I did recently make a video where I demonstrated this technique, so if you're interested in finding out what I'm talking about, then you can check that out right here. Another way to use hairspray on curly or wavy hair that I don't believe I've spoken about on my channel yet is to put it in after you've diffused your hair but before you've scrunched out the crunch. And most especially if you don't diffuse your hair to 100% dry. So you spray it on when your hair is still a little bit damp and just finishing up drying, and then you let both the hairspray and your hair completely dry, and then you can scrunch out the crunch. Doing this will definitely help with reducing the amount of frizz that scrunching out the crunch can sometimes cause. And if you use a humidity blocking hairspray, this is a really good technique to use for those of you who live in a humid climate, to put that on at that stage to help really block that humidity before you go out into it. Moving on now to the different types of hairsprays, we're going to talk about the differences between aerosol and non-aerosol hairsprays. Now, I actually don't have any aerosol hairsprays to show you, but I do have this volumizing texture spray, which is in aerosol form. And it's even though this isn't a hairspray per se, this is how aerosol hairsprays come out. As long as you're pushing down, it comes out, and it comes out in this finer mist usually is how it comes out. And now the non-aerosol ones are ones that kind of are in a pump, and they come out only as you're pushing down, and it's one spritz and then it pops back up. Aside from the differences in how they dispense from their containers, there is also a difference in how they perform on the hair. Most of the time, the aerosol hairsprays are going to be your absolute end product that you put on your hair. They're usually the finishing sprays. They're the setting, locking it in place kind of sprays, and they will dry very quickly and set very fast. However, there are some aerosol hairsprays that'll be labeled workable or working or something like that, something to that effect that clues you in to let you know that you have time to work with it. And if you read the instructions, you'll see something like that too, or it'll tell you that you have time to work with it before it sets in place, or that you can use it on damp or wet hair. Those are all good clues to let you know that that type of hairspray will work for the techniques that I have discussed on various videos in my channel. And then the non-aerosol hairsprays tend to kind of by default dry a lot slower and tend to be something you can work with a little bit more. Most of them tend to work really well for the purposes that I have already explained to you and for what I've demonstrated in some of my videos. Those work probably the best. They're the ones that I tend to use the most, are the non-aerosol, and I like to go for the ones that say working spray when I can find them. Most working sprays do dry a little bit slower and take longer to set than an aerosol. There are always exceptions to this. Reading the directions for use can usually be pretty helpful. If it says that it sets really fast or dries really fast, that's probably not something that you're gonna want for this. What you're gonna want is a hairspray that gives you a little bit more workability and a little bit more time, and that will work well for the things that I have mentioned previously, unless of course what you're looking for is just once your hair is completely dried and styled and you just wanna set it all in place, then you would probably want one that dries a lot faster and sets a lot quicker. Now, when it comes to working sprays, setting sprays, or finishing sprays, working sprays and setting sprays can be pretty similar as far as the amount of drying time and the amount of time that you have to work with them. Setting sprays will help to kind of set what you're doing into place. I have used setting sprays for doing wet sets, so when I had people who got a roller set or something like that, I would put the rollers in, I would spray the setting spray over the top, pop them in under the dryer, and then the heat and the air from the dryer would work in conjunction with the setting spray to really help lock the set in place. And then when I was able to take the rollers out and then brush through it, those curls were very well formed. I've also used setting spray on dry hair and used it in a curling iron set. So I will dry the hair first, spray on the setting spray, and then curl it. However, those setting sprays do usually still work when you put them on wet or damp hair. You just have to look at what the instructions say and whether or not they're letting you know if there is time to work with it before it dries and sets. Working sprays tend to be the ones that I gravitate towards the most, just because they tend to be a bit more versatile, both for me in my personal use and in my professional use. When I still used to work behind the chair, I was able to use them for a lot of different applications, and you can absolutely use them in the ways that I've mentioned before on wet hair or damp hair, and you can use them as a finishing spray at the end. You just need to keep in mind that it will take a little bit longer for it to dry and set in place, but it doesn't take so incredibly long that that's really going to be too much of an issue. In my professional life, I used to use working sprays as I was doing special occasion hair, so doing updos. As I was creating the updo, I was using working sprays quite a bit, and then at the very end, when I was completely done, I would use a aerosol finishing spray to lock everything in place. Now it's time to talk about my top 5 hairsprays for curly or wavy hair. The first one I'm going to start with, and any of you who've been watching my channel for any length of time probably already knows, you've already seen it, you've already heard me say it. It's the Aquage working spray. I've been using this for quite a few years now, and in fact, don't look too closely at the bottle. This is actually the same bottle. I just buy the liter refill and keep refilling it so that I don't have to keep buying a whole new bottle and having waste to throw away. So that's one of the things that I really like about this. Also, literally everything that I want out of a working spray is in here. I have workability, I have spray that has a really good hold, I have a spray that really helps fight frizz, and there's everything I could possibly want in a hairspray is right here, and this is why this has been with me for a long time. Now that is the only hairspray that I actually have here and can show you the physical product. Hairsprays are not something that I really collect a large amount of. I tend to find one that I like and use it for a while. However, in my 20+ year career working behind the chair as a hairstylist, I have worked with lots of different hairsprays. And what I'm about to give to you as my top 5 really and truly are the ones that have stood out to me over the many years and many different hairsprays that I've used. And because I don't have those physical products, I'll just show pictures up here. So the next hairspray I'm going to be talking about is one that I love just as much as the Aquage working spray, and that is going to be from Wavy, and it is their Finishing Mist Setting and Holding Spray. The only reason I don't have this one right now is because It hasn't been in the pro beauty supply stores that are in my area for a very long time, and supplies have been kind of an issue over the past year with COVID, but they're becoming even more of an issue, so the shelves are getting emptier. Otherwise, I would most definitely have the Aquage holding spray, and I would have the Wavy spray. I like both of them. I don't know that I could pick a favorite between the two of them. I really love both of them. They both are just such great sprays with really great hold, and they do all of the things that I want them to do. So even though it's a setting and finishing spray, it is one that allows you to work with it on wet or damp hair, and for all of the ways that I have mentioned earlier, they work really well for. So when I had this hairspray before, my daughter actually stole it from me and then finished off the bottle, and I wasn't able to use it, and then I haven't been able to get it since. But it is a really great hairspray, and should it pop up in my Pro Beauty store ever again, I will grab it, and I will have both the Aquage and the Wavy in my collection. The next hairspray we're gonna be talking about is gonna be the Biolash Finishing Spritz. Now that one I've also discussed on this channel. In fact, I mentioned it in my 90s hair routine video that I recently posted, and it has been with me since I started cosmetology school back in the early 90s, and I've used it on and off ever since, both personally and professionally. And it is another great spray that works really well for all of the purposes that I have previously mentioned in this video: wet hair, dry hair, damp hair, finishing, setting, working. It's great for all of them. Even though it says that it is a finishing spray, I find that it works really well for all of the above. The next one is going to be the TG Bedhead Maxed Out Massive Hold Hairspray. Again, this is another one that can be used for all of the applications previously mentioned, and it is one that I used for a good chunk of time years ago. I haven't used it in a while, and like I said, it's only because I don't really collect a lot of hairsprays. I don't have a ton of them around. I have more gels, mousses, curl creams, leave-ins, those types of things, but I tend not to collect a ton of hairsprays. I pick one that I really like and I'm really enjoying at the time, and I tend to stick with it for quite some time before I move on to a different one or try a different one. That being said, because of this channel, I do really want to try some more hairsprays out there, and I will definitely be doing that as I go forward in this channel and continuing to review things. However, at this point in time, I don't have a huge collection of them, and these are the ones that I have used in my past, both personally and professionally. The very last hairspray I'm going to be talking about is in fact an aerosol hairspray. It is the type of hairspray that you use at the very end to lock everything in, keep it in place, basically cement your style in place. And that is going to be Kenra 25, which I consider to be the king of all hairsprays. It is the hairspray that finished every single bridal look I have ever done in my entire career. It just works. It holds. In fact, I had a bride who basically gave me a heart attack by telling me she was going to be riding in a convertible on her wedding day with my updo. Don't recommend. Can't really guarantee that that's going to stay, because that's a lot to ask for an updo, regardless of how much pins you put in there and how much hairspray you put in there. That's a lot to ask. However, Kenra 25 saved the day, and her hair held even in a convertible driving along with her updo. I was pretty surprised and very happy. Thank you, Kenra 25, for that one. So if you're somebody who really likes to have a spray to finish everything off, to lock it in place, to have it just stay, or if it's a special occasion and you really need your hair to stay in place or anything like that, if you want your hair to hold, Kenra 25 is what you use. I definitely don't recommend using it on damp or wet hair. That's not what it's meant for. It's not going to work very well that way. However, on your completed style, it will hold very well. So this is going to wrap up both my education and my recommendations for hairsprays for wavy and curly hair. So if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, that would be absolutely amazing. And also while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when I upload. And most especially, if you have any questions, comments, or if there's anything that you'd like to see, please leave those down below in my comment section. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.